All right, let's talk about the WNBA and rookie sensation Caitlin Clark.
Caitlin Clark is college basketball's biggest star.
Caitlin Clark has taken the women's game to new heights.
Caitlin Clark deserves love.
This moment, we kind of needed something.
This is
to
that
just
moment.
And Caitlin's that moment.
Caitlin Clark has shocked the basketball world over the last year. Everyone can't stop talking about one of the most exciting college athletes of all time. The 2024 WNBA draft first overall pick surely has a superstar career ahead of her. But what do the players she's trying to emulate really think of her? Support from LeBron James. Despite the fact he's getting towards the end of his career, LeBron James is still the face of the NBA. When he talks about a young player, people listen. So the fact that the King has only had good words to speak about Caitlin Clark has got to be a good sign for Caitlin. Even in the times when Clark has gone through adversity, LeBron has been on her side. After her Iowa side lost the NCAA championship to South Carolina, LeBron tweeted, "If you don't rock with Caitlin Clark game, you're just a flat-out hater. Stay far away from them people, please." That loss caused a lot of people to call Clark overrated. But LeBron didn't want to hear any of that. He highlighted the fact that Clark and other female NCAA hoopers were able to build their brands over a number of years at college, something most men's players don't do because they stay in college for just 1 year. Caitlin even got asked about LeBron and the superstars in the women's game. Steph Curry comparisons. But what does the guy who Caitlin's game has been compared to think? Is Steph Curry a fan of the woman who models her game off of him? What might shock you to hear is that Steph thinks those comparisons are unfair, but it's actually because Steph thinks her game is much better overall. The 4-time NBA champion says that the comparisons overshadow Caitlin's overall floor game. It is true that everyone talks a lot about the limitless range that Clark has, but she has so much more to her game. What makes the shooting range even more dangerous is that Caitlin can drive inside to the lane, or even find one of her teammates for the open shot. The stats back up that Caitlin is much more than just a shooter. While she led the country in scoring her final college season, the Iowa guard also ranks second all-time among women's Division I players in career triple-doubles with 17. Triple-doubles are not something that Steph has ever been focusing on. He is a score-first guard, just probably the best score-first guard we have ever seen. So maybe the biggest compliment that Steph can give Caitlin is saying her game has more to it than Steph's own. Rumors even stated that Steph worked hard in trying to recruit Caitlin to sign with Under Armour. Before signing her massive $28 million contract with Nike, she took meetings with other major brands like Adidas and Under Armour. Steph was involved in the pitch that Under Armour made to Caitlin Clark. That wasn't enough for Caitlin, who chose to go with the bigger and probably better offer she was getting from Nike. Steph had one hell of a nice quote for Caitlin. He said, "Caitlin is special. Her story, journey, the record speaks for itself, and it's cool. It's just dope from a scoring perspective. From a shooting perspective, just a hooper that's doing what she's doing." Shaq. It is not just the stars of today that have something to say about Caitlin Clark, but it's also the superstars of yesterday. Shaq has become one of the biggest personalities in basketball coverage since retiring from the sport in 2011. There might not be a former NBA legend who has given Caitlin Clark as high of praise as Shaq has. When Caitlin broke the NCAAW all-time scoring record, Shaq had some surprisingly high praise for a woman who has never played in the WNBA. Shaq was happy to go on record and say that Clark is the greatest women's hoops player of all time. He was more than happy to already put Clark above greats like Diana Taurasi, Lisa Leslie, and Sue Bird as the greatest to ever do it. That is some crazy high praise, and a few people were shocked by what Shaq said. But his praise for the young superstar certainly doesn't end there. When the 5-time champion found out how little Clark is set to make from her rookie contract, he made sure to support women's basketball. Shaq encouraged more and more people to show up to her WNBA games, as this is how the league makes more money. But as you might expect from one of the most dominant centers of all time, Shaq was happy to criticize Caitlin when he felt like it was necessary. But the criticism sounded a little more like praise when you look into it. Shaq said, "Caitlin Clark is a special player. She reminds me of Steph Curry. A lot of the time she takes those ill-advised shots that me and Chuck don't like, but they go in. Not only do they go in consistently. Those ill-advised shots are what make Clark so special, and I would be shocked if they stopped when she starts her WNBA career." Magic Johnson. One NBA legend who certainly knows what it's like to be a superstar in college is Magic Johnson. Before he was a 5-time NBA champion and arguably the best point guard of all time, Magic was a college superstar at Michigan State. While Magic was a star in a completely different era, he still partly understands the pressure Clark is under. As he always does, Magic kept his praise very professional and eloquent. On Twitter, Magic wrote, "Caitlin Clark's extraordinary play this season has been the catalyst for growing women's basketball, with record-breaking viewership throughout the tournament. She deserves her flowers, and I want to congratulate her on an incredible collegiate career." Clark has set numerous collegiate records during her time with Iowa, so she definitely deserves her flowers. There were some comparisons made between the impact that Caitlin is having on women's basketball to the impact Magic had on college basketball. Fans had to tune in to watch Caitlin Clark whenever she played, and this is exactly what fans were doing when Magic Johnson was in college. Caitlin will now have her focus on the WNBA. Maybe she could take some motivation from Magic. Few players have had a more successful rookie season than Magic Johnson in all of basketball. The Lakers legend might have a few pointers to help Clark keep up those insane performances in the big leagues. Charles Barkley. While Caitlin has really taken over this season, a few NBA legends have been praising her performances for years. Last year, when Caitlin Clark led Iowa to defeat South Carolina in the Final Four, Chuck was full of praise for Clark after her magnificent 41-point performance to send Iowa to the national championship. Chuck said, "I watched the game last night. Dawn Staley and her amazing women. She is unbelievable. They got beat by a better team because Caitlin Clark was amazing." His words of praise have only continued this season. Before another spectacular run from Clark, Barkley called her a phenomenon. He said he would love to see a 3-point contest between Steph Curry and Caitlin Clark, saying that it could be a great thing for basketball. We know very well that Charles Barkley is more than happy to speak his mind. He's never going to mince his words just to seem nice, and so getting that sort of praise from a guy like Chuck is a massive boost for Caitlin. Kevin Garnett. It seems like even the most critical of NBA legends still have plenty of praise for the greatness of Caitlin Clark. Kevin Garnett built a reputation on an NBA court as one of the meanest and nastiest players the league has ever seen. So it might shock you that he's been so nice when talking about this year's WNBA first overall pick. One of the interesting hypotheticals that have been talked about with Caitlin Clark is how successful she would be in the NBA. Having been rewriting the history books in women's basketball, fans and former players have wondered how she would fare in the men's game. Garrett believes that if Caitlin got 30 minutes in an NBA game, she would be getting more than 10 points per game. He was full of praise for Caitlin, saying that she could get those points using her elite shooting or her impressive handles. He was equally as full of praise after Clark led Iowa past UConn in the Final Four this season. KG said on Twitter that it doesn't matter how hard you try to guard her, Caitlin Clark will still find a way to score. He even added on his own podcast that Clark might have the most momentum of any athlete in all of sports right now. The rest of the NBA. If you pretty much pick any superstar in today's game, they can't stop talking about Caitlin Clark. One guy who knows more than a little bit about limitless range is Trae Young, and the Hawks guard says Clark's driving ability makes it so difficult to get close to her, and it opens up Clark's long-range game. Kevin Durant has been watching Caitlin ball for years. He remembers watching her play during her time in AAU basketball. He was shocked watching her for the very first time, and so KD is not surprised at all that she's taking over basketball at the moment. No doubt she is the best player in the country at the moment. Caitlin can do it all for her team, whether it be scoring, rebounding, or assists. But her shooting is what really takes most people's attention, including that of Luka Doncic. The Mavs superstar had some high praise for Clark. The comparisons to Steph Curry are always going to come when you hit threes from half court like Caitlin Clark does. While she also has plenty of doubters, it is clear that there's a huge amount of support for Caitlin Clark moving forward. Moving to the WNBA is not going to be easy, especially with all of the expectations that are now going to be on her shoulders. But being one of the most exciting basketball players of all time means Caitlin will have plenty of support behind her in the next few years. But what do you think about Caitlin Clark? Put your thoughts in the comments section down below. While you're down there, hit the like button and subscribe. Thank you for watching, and we will see you next time.